Enough of this racket. Get out of here with that baby right now. My husband's angry shout pierced the silence of the night, driving us out into the chill of the changing season. With mornings growing colder and the threat of imminent rain, I felt the sting of desperation claw at my bones. I'm freezing. If we stay out here, we'll freeze to death, I muttered to myself, clutching our 3-month-old daughter tightly wrapped in her blanket. Despite my relentless knocking, there was no response from inside. Helpless, I hugged my crying child closer, and we stumbled on. Each step felt heavier as exhaustion settled in. Please let us in, I pleaded with the empty darkness, but the night offered no solace. Wandering aimlessly, I found myself sitting on a bench in the park, my body frozen to the core. Tears flowed freely as the events leading to our plight played out in my mind. How did we end up like this? My name is Olivia, 31 years old. Left orphaned by my parents' divorce in middle school, I was later devastated by my mother's tragic accident 2 years ago. Alone and desperate, Benjamin, a college classmate turned husband, became my anchor. His promises of support and love offered a glimmer of hope in my darkest days. But since learning about my pregnancy, Benjamin's demeanor shifted. His warmth turned to frost, his kindness replaced by indifference. Despite my morning sickness and struggles, his patience wore thin, leaving me to fend for myself. I hoped our daughter's birth would mend our fractured bond, but it only widened the chasm between us. His absence grew pronounced, his anger palpable. Every night echoed with his complaints, his resentment towards our crying baby tearing at my heart. This life, once filled with dreams of a happy family, now felt like a nightmare of loneliness and despair. My husband seemed to have an invisible shield against childcare responsibilities, always deflecting them with claims of being swamped with work. Even on his supposed days off, relaxation at home was a foreign concept to him, opting instead to gallivant around town from dawn till dusk. Left alone to tend to our baby, I found myself drained, both physically and emotionally. Each night, our daughter's cries intensified, mirroring my own mounting distress. One fateful evening, my husband's simmering frustration boiled over. Get out of this house with that baby right now. His words cut through the air like a blade, leaving me stunned. I can't do that, I stammered, but before I could plead my case, we were cast out into the biting cold, devoid of essentials like keys, wallet, or phone. Helplessness washed over me as I clung to my daughter, wrapping her tightly in a blanket to shield her from the chill. With weary steps, we trudged on until exhaustion forced me to collapse on a park bench, my mind a whirlwind of despair. How had our once promising life devolved into this chaos? As if in response to my silent lament, my daughter's cries pierced the night air once more, a painful reminder of my failure. Just as the cold began to numb my senses, a voice shattered the silence. Are you okay? The concern in the stranger's voice momentarily transported me, as if my own mother had reached out from beyond. As I looked up, a woman stood before me, her eyes filled with compassion. My husband kicked me out because of her baby's crying, I explained, the words heavy with shame. Without hesitation, the stranger extended a lifeline. Come stay at my place, she offered, her kindness a beacon of hope in the darkness. As I hesitated, unsure whether to accept her generosity, she gently took my daughter into her arms, instantly calming her restless cries. It's okay, don't worry. Let's go somewhere warm for the baby's sake. Entering her home felt like stepping into a sanctuary. My daughter was cocooned in a soft blanket, offered a comforting glass of hot milk, and cradled in the stranger's arms, her gentle snores filling the room with a sense of peace I hadn't felt in far too long. I couldn't believe it. No matter how hard I tried, the baby just wouldn't settle. It can be quite a challenge if you're not accustomed to it. As a recent grandmother, I found myself occasionally caring for the little one, perhaps explaining my newfound sensitivity to a baby's cries. Checking on the source of the noise, I found myself face to face with a woman, gentle smile easing the tension in the room. She seemed around the same age as my mother, radiating warmth that instantly put me at ease. I'm sorry for intruding like this, I murmured, feeling a wave of gratitude for her understanding. It's okay, she reassured me, her kind eyes reflecting empathy. We should help each other out in times of need. Do you need a ride home? Do you live nearby? I hesitated, memories of being cast out still fresh in my mind. No, I might just get thrown out again, I confessed, my voice faltering. Without missing a beat, she offered her hospitality. Her kindness moved me to tears once more. Thank you so much, I whispered, introducing myself. My name is Olivia. As the conversation flowed, A sudden realization dawned on me. Wait a minute, isn't your baby's name Anne? Her nod confirmed my suspicion. Yes, but how did you? It turns out this woman was Jackson, my husband's direct superior. She had sent us a gift when Anne was born, hence her familiarity with our daughter's name. The coincidence caught me off guard, and I regretted airing my grievances about my husband to her. We're always grateful for your help, I said, my mind racing with newfound information. The thing is, my husband has been busy with work lately, and he seems quite tired. Jackson's response stunned me. That can't be right. Your husband has been on parental leave for the past 2 months. My heart skipped a beat as her words sank in. But he says he goes to work every day, I protested, confusion clouding my thoughts. He even said he has work tomorrow. It's a holiday. The office will be closed, Jackson explained, her tone tinged with concern. I wonder what he's up to. I was blindsided by the revelation that my husband, whom I believed was tirelessly working, was actually on vacation. However, the pieces of the puzzle were finally starting to fall into place. I couldn't shake off the sense of anticipation that seemed to linger on the days my husband was supposed to be at work. Ever since I became pregnant, his behavior had taken a noticeable shift, leaving me with a nagging feeling that something wasn't quite right. As I pondered how to investigate further, Jackson suggested a bold idea. Why don't you check his social media, she proposed, gesturing towards a computer in the corner of the room. I accepted her offer gratefully and began scrolling through my husband's online presence. What I discovered left me reeling in shock. A trove of photos featuring him and another woman, seemingly inseparable. They look like a couple. That's Ava, Jackson explained, her voice tinged with sympathy. She worked at our company for only 3 months before recently quitting. The pieces fell into place, confirming my worst fears. Though I had harbored suspicions, the reality of my husband's affair hit me harder than I had anticipated. Do you know her address, her contact information? I asked, my voice trembling with emotion. But Jackson hesitated, her concern evident. I'm sorry, I shouldn't have mentioned her name. It's personal information, and I can't disclose it, she replied gently, offering me solace in my moment of vulnerability. As I deflated, Jackson extended her support. I'll do everything I can to help with anything else, she assured me. But my attention was drawn back to the screen, where a series of photos showcased my husband and his mistress living a life of luxury, dining at the prestigious Paris hotel. The realization hit me like a ton of bricks. With no income during my maternity leave and our combined savings dwindling, there was no way he could afford such extravagance. No way. This can't be happening, I whispered, my heart heavy with disbelief. With trembling hands, I logged into my bank account online, hoping against hope for a different outcome. But what I found only confirmed my worst fears. My savings of $250,000 vanished. The inheritance I received after my mother's tragic car accident had been cut in half, leaving me stunned and motionless for what felt like an eternity. What's wrong? Jackson's concerned voice broke through my daze. My husband has been using my savings without my permission, I confessed, the betrayal cutting deep. I had reserved those funds for our daughter's future, trusting my husband to keep them safe. But as I reflected on recent events, the pieces began to fall into place. Leaving my debit card with him during my hospitalization for childbirth had been a mistake. He hadn't visited me once during that time, and the first withdrawal from my savings coincided with the day I handed him the card. I had never doubted his integrity, believing he had locked it away securely. I can't forgive him, I murmured, the weight of his deception crushing my spirit. He's been using my beloved mother's inheritance without my permission. Determined to expose his deceit, I accepted Jackson's offer of a digital camera. The next day, we watched from the car as my husband, wearing a self-satisfied smirk, left our house without a second thought for our daughter and me. His carefree demeanor grated against my raw emotions, fueling my resolve. As expected, his car eventually pulled up at the Paris hotel, his mistress in tow. With practiced ease, they strolled into the restaurant, oblivious to the pain they caused. Entrusting our daughter to Jackson's care, I took a seat behind them, steeling myself for the confrontation to come. I've had enough of Olivia's stubbornness, my husband's callous words echoed in my ears. Finally kicked her out last night. Now she's filed for divorce. I'll get the compensation from her mother's accident, and maybe even alimony. You're despicable, Jackson retorted, her disgust palpable. Your wife doesn't even realize you're after her money. You've been using her vulnerability since her mother passed away. but having a child was an unexpected obstacle. The shock of his admission left me speechless, my mind reeling with disbelief. Oblivious to my turmoil, my husband swaggered towards the elevator with his mistress, the key to their hotel room dangling from his fingers. As I stealthily followed them, even though it was just a fleeting moment before the elevator arrived, they embraced and began to kiss. Despite bracing myself, witnessing the affair unfold before my eyes was agonizing. A shiver ran down my spine as my husband's callous words echoed in my ears. "This is a pre-celebration for kicking Olivia out. Let's have a blast today." Unable to find my voice, I watched helplessly as the elevator doors closed, swallowing them up and leaving me behind. Frustration and sadness overwhelmed me, rendering me unable to stand. Collapsing to my knees, I felt a profound shift within me. The grief that had gripped my heart began to morph into a simmering desire for revenge. Betrayal of this magnitude was too cruel to ignore. I couldn't simply let it slide. That evening, timing my return to coincide with my husband's arrival home from work, I made my way back to the house. "Whoa, look who's back," he greeted me with mock surprise. "I'm sorry. I'll do whatever you say from now on. Please let me back in the house," I pleaded, masking my rising anger behind a facade of submission. It was time to tighten the noose around him, to play the part of the obedient wife and bide my time. "Fine. From now on, I'm not giving you any living expenses. Do whatever you want," he declared, his arrogance undiminished. Without a word of dissent and without broaching the subject of divorce, I made it clear that I was onto him. Despite his continued despicable attitude, I remained resolute, laying the groundwork for the vengeance that simmered beneath the surface. Enduring my husband's deceit, I persisted in my search for evidence of his affair, scouring the house for any clue. Among his belongings, I discovered a trove of receipts for hotels and meals tucked away in his suit pockets, but alone, they felt like feeble proof. It wasn't until I delved into social media under the woman's name that her true identity was unveiled 2 weeks later. With all preparations in place, I found myself once again at the infamous Paris hotel. There they were, my husband and his mistress, brazenly indulging in dinner and public displays of affection, just as they had done before. Mustering my resolve, I approached them as they prepared to board the elevator. "What are you doing here?" my husband demanded, his tone defensive. "Why are you here?" "I am obviously here for a work meeting," I countered sharply, seizing the moment to confront him. Quickly disentangling himself from his mistress, my husband looked guilt-ridden, attempting to flee. "That's odd. Today's a day off, isn't it?" I pressed, my voice cutting through the tension. Turning in surprise, he stumbled upon a revelation. "What, Jackson? You're supposed to be on parental leave, right? How come you're working?" Caught off guard by my unexpected presence with his boss, my husband's feeble excuses faltered. Meanwhile, the mistress, identified as Ava, appeared uneasy and uncertain, her gaze fixed downward. Sensing the scrutiny of onlookers, I proposed a change of scenery. "Since we're drawing attention, let's move this to the room you guys booked. Unless you want me to scatter these photos around here. Is that okay?" I brandished the damning evidence, leaving my husband reeling. In a desperate bid to escape, he grabbed my arm and pulled me into the elevator. But Jackson intercepted, apprehending the fleeing mistress and bringing her along. "Why are you with Jackson?" my husband demanded, bewildered by the unexpected turn of events. "Since the day you kicked me out, I had nowhere to go. Jackson heard our daughter crying in the park and invited me in," I explained, seizing the opportunity to expose his hypocrisy. As we entered the room, a tense silence descended, marking the beginning of a confrontation long overdue. Dumping all the evidence onto the table, I watched as shock rippled across their faces. "What are these photos?" my husband stammered, his voice betraying a hint of panic. "I was here the day after you kicked me out of the house. It was shocking, but I took these as evidence of your affair," I explained, my tone steely with resolve. "That's low. That's my line," my husband retorted, his attempt to deflect criticism falling flat in the face of my accusations. His silence spoke volumes, but I pressed on. "I'm aware you used my savings without my consent. That money was a legacy from my mother," I continued, my voice unwavering. "That's our shared property. I don't see an issue with me using it," he countered, his arrogance grating against my sense of injustice. "It's not shared property. It's mine and mine alone," I insisted, refusing to back down. "You will return the $120,000 you used." "Come on, we're married. Let's not get into such tedious matters," he dismissed, his indifference fueling my frustration. Exhausted by his callousness, I reached into my bag and pulled out the divorce papers, slamming them onto the table with finality. I'm fed up with you. Fill out these divorce papers immediately. That's a leap, don't you think? Didn't I hear you say you wanted me to bring up divorce? He protested, his attempt to deflect blame falling on deaf ears. I played a recording of a conversation we had during a previous meal, his hurtful words reverberating throughout the room. Give me a break, not a chance to think. You approached me just for my money. His voice echoed, each syllable a painful reminder of his betrayal. It all became clear after I heard our conversation from that day. That's why you became so cold all of a sudden, I declared, my voice steady despite the turmoil within. There's a lot to the situation. I don't want to hear any excuses or lies, I continued, my resolve unyielding. Pay me $20,000 for the affair, $10,000 for all the times you mistreated me, $120,000 for the money you took from my savings, and $110,000 for child support until our daughter turns 20. That's a total of $260,000 in one lump sum. What mistreatment? He protested, his voice tinged with desperation. But there was no denying the truth of his actions. You kicked me and our daughter out of the house in the middle of the night and didn't provide living expenses, I countered, my voice unwavering. Clearly caught off guard, he attempted to salvage the situation. Just calm down. Let's talk this out, he pleaded, his tone bordering on pathetic. But there was no room for negotiation. Don't mock me, and don't think you're out of this either. I'll be seeking $20,000 in damages from you too, I retorted, my gaze unwavering. Turning to face his mistress, I could see the color drain from her face. I have to pay too, of course. But in return, I'm divorcing him, so you two can be open about your relationship. That should be a relief, right? I remarked, my tone cutting. As the reality of his situation sank in, my husband's desperation reached a fever pitch. Please spare me this one time. I'll be a good husband, I promise, he begged, his tears and snot a sorry sight. But his pitiful display only served to strengthen my resolve. Turning my back on him, I took the house keys and card case from his bag. I sold the house that was in my name. Jackson reported everything to the company, and it seems you're going to be fired, I informed him, my voice devoid of emotion. As we left the room, I knew it was the end of an era. I didn't want to see my husband ever again, so I arranged for a divorce through a lawyer. I reflected, my mind already moving forward. I demanded compensation for the divorce, the money he had squandered, and child support. With his parents furious and his future uncertain, my husband's downfall was complete. Since he couldn't pay all the compensation in one go, his father forced him to work in a mine, I concluded, my voice tinged with finality. Leaving behind the remnants of my old life, my daughter and I embarked on a new journey. We bought a small apartment and started our new life, I recounted, a sense of relief washing over me. The moment we started living here, my daughter's night crying stopped completely. Grateful for Jackson's support and the opportunity for a fresh start, I knew that together, my daughter and I would build a home filled with happiness and love. Why did I get a letter from my late mother-in-law? I couldn't believe my eyes as I stared at the envelope in my mailbox. It was from her, even though we had just said our goodbyes at her funeral yesterday. She had always been so kind to me, like a friend despite our age gap. We used to go out and have fun together, and her sudden passing had hit me hard. I was still struggling to accept that she was gone. During my mourning, getting a letter from my mother-in-law was a big shock. As I read it quickly, I discovered something totally unexpected. She had arranged for it to be sent to me by the temple priest after she passed away. Inside, she told me about a hidden door in the family chest and how to find it. She stressed that I should open it alone. Realizing I had the house to myself, I rushed over and used the spare key to get in. Following her instructions, I found the secret compartment and managed to open it. Inside, I found something incredible. I'm Nancy, 35, working as a web designer from home. My husband Tom, 4 years older, and I tied the knot 5 years back. We were introduced by a friend, and our bond remains strong. Sadly, we haven't been able to have kids yet. It's been tough, but my mother-in-law, also named Nancy, has been a source of solace. She always reassures me, saying there's no rush and suggests fun outings like trying out the new waffle place near the station. Her warmth and encouragement have eased my worries about not having children. Though I still long for them, I've decided against aggressive fertility treatments and am letting things happen naturally. My husband, Tom, travels a lot for work, so my mother-in-law and I often hang out when he's away. Despite our age gap, we've become really close, almost like friends. She lives nearby with my brother-in-law's family, who have 3 kids. But while my mother-in-law gets along with them, my brother-in-law and his wife aren't so friendly towards us because we don't have kids. Nancy, still no kids. We've got 3 wonderful ones here. Not having kids is disrespectful. You should distance yourself from your mother-in-law. Amy, my brother-in-law's wife, often taunts, with Jason, my brother-in-law, joining in with mocking remarks about Tom and me. At first, my husband and I would argue back when my brother-in-law's family made those hurtful comments. But they never listened, so we started avoiding them instead. It's frustrating how they're so rude to us, but pretend to be nice around my mother-in-law. She has no idea what they're really like. We haven't told her because we don't want her to worry unnecessarily. Feeling worried, we rang the doorbell at my in-laws' house, but no one answered, so we used the spare key to get in. "Mom," my husband called out, but there was no reply. With a sinking feeling, we searched the house and found my mother-in-law collapsed in her bedroom. "Oh no," I gasped, rushing to her side while my husband called for an ambulance. My brother-in-law's family must have been out because no one else was home. The ambulance arrived quickly, but despite their efforts, my mother-in-law passed away at the hospital. It was a stroke. My husband and I were devastated by my mother-in-law's sudden passing. We cried endlessly, but there were practical matters to attend to, like arranging the funeral. We knew we couldn't dwell in sadness forever. The funeral was meant to be a family affair, with my brother-in-law taking the lead. Despite some reluctance from him, we all worked together to honor my mother-in-law's wishes. But throughout the preparations, there was a sense of unease with my brother-in-law. While he carried out his duties as the chief mourner, he seemed detached. After brief conversations with relatives, he would abruptly leave, leaving them offended. They would then glare at him as he departed. During the gathering after the funeral, my brother-in-law took the first seat and stayed put, ignoring my husband's attempts to engage him with the guests. He just sat there with his beer, and his wife did the same beside him. Meanwhile, my husband and I moved around, thanking everyone for coming and sharing memories of my mother-in-law. Seeing their parents lounging and drinking seemed to influence my brother-in-law's kids, who busied themselves with games, laughing and nudging each other. It felt more like a casual get-together than a mourning gathering. None of them seemed affected by my mother-in-law's passing, and the relatives noticed. They didn't bother talking to my brother-in-law's family and instead shared memories with my husband and me before saying goodbye. Despite the relatives' noticeable change in behavior, they carried on, ordering more beer, discussing inheritances, and even planning vacations during this solemn time. After everything my mother-in-law did for them, "It's just disrespectful," I muttered, feeling disdainful towards my brother-in-law's family. The next morning, my husband left early for some errands. As I went to check the mailbox for the newspaper, I found a letter addressed to me. Who could this be from? I wondered, surprised as I opened it and realized it was from my late mother-in-law. Why would she send me a letter? I pondered, returning to the living room to read it. Inside, I discovered something unexpected. It seemed she had arranged for the temple priest to send it to me after her passing. The letter contained instructions on opening a chest, accessing a hidden compartment, and the contact details of the family lawyer. And then a note. "Please open it alone." I carefully studied my mother-in-law's letter, admiring her strong handwriting despite her delicate frame. Taking a deep breath, I felt the weight of her words, reflecting her resilient spirit. Glancing at the clock, it read 9:30. The house should be empty now, I thought to myself as I prepared to leave. The kids would be at school, and my brother-in-law and his wife likely out on their planned outing, according to a social media post I saw earlier. Despite it being the day after our grandmother's funeral, they seemed eager for a day off using bereavement leave. If their post was accurate, the family home should be deserted. I knew I had to go now, or I might not have another chance. As I stepped into my parents-in-law's house using the spare key, a wave of sadness washed over me. The absence of my mother-in-law, always so warm and welcoming, felt heavy on my heart. Slowly, I made my way to her room. The chest, said to be her trousseau, looked old but well cared for. Following the letter's instructions, I opened it smoothly and found the hidden door at the back, just as described. Relief flooded me as I managed to open it safely. Inside, along with what the letter mentioned, I found another document. What could this be? I wondered, feeling my mother-in-law's love emanating from the papers. Tears threatened to spill, but I knew I had to leave quickly. I couldn't risk being caught there by someone returning home. After all, the letter had emphasized the importance of doing it alone. When I returned home with the documents, I reached out to the family lawyer mentioned in a letter to inform them of my mother-in-law's passing. Just as I was about to contact my husband and my brother-in-law's family to discuss gathering this weekend, an email from my sister-in-law arrived. It urged us to convene at my parents-in-law's house urgently for important news. What could she want to discuss? Despite feeling uneasy, declining seemed strange, so I accepted. That weekend, we nervously gathered at my parents-in-law's house. My brother-in-law and his wife wore smug smiles, and their children were conspicuously absent. As soon as we sat down, they presented a document, my mother-in-law's will. It bore her signature, leaving all assets to my brother-in-law and his wife. "You see, we inherit everything," my brother-in-law gloated, his laughter harsh. While my husband looked stunned, I quietly excused myself and discreetly brought in the lawyer waiting outside. "Who's this?" My brother-in-law and his wife sounded puzzled as the lawyer entered. Even my husband, unaware of the lawyer's presence, looked surprised. "This is the lawyer my mother-in-law trusted," I explained briefly. Gradually, confusion turned to anger on my brother-in-law and his wife's faces. "A lawyer? Why bring them here?" they demanded. "It's part of my mother-in-law's instructions. She wanted the lawyer to help draft the estate division agreement smoothly," I replied. They protested loudly, insisting they didn't need legal assistance. My brother-in-law slammed the desk, gesturing to my mother-in-law's will. "See, we have her will. We don't need a lawyer," he declared. The lawyer intervened calmly. "Are you sure your mother wrote this entire document herself?" My brother-in-law affirmed angrily, but the lawyer shook his head. "This can't be recognized as a will. A holographic will must be entirely handwritten by the testator," he explained, pointing out inconsistencies in the document. The handwriting looked familiar, but the rest appeared to be printed, likely from a computer. The room fell silent as my brother-in-law reached for the will in front of him. But no matter what he did, the content remained unchanged, neatly printed in Gothic font. "Huh?" Suddenly, my husband pointed out something strange. "Why is the back of the paper so clean?" I examined it closely and noticed a discrepancy. The handwriting in the signature section was different from the rest. Could this be a forged will? My brother-in-law and his wife trembled at the lawyer's observation. "We wouldn't do such a thing," they protested, but their tension was palpable. The lawyer warned, forgery of a will is a serious crime. Their faces drained of color as they stuttered through excuses. The lawyer delivered the final blow. "Nancy has a notarized will, making yours invalid." My brother-in-law and his wife were shocked. "What? We never heard of it," they exclaimed. But I remembered the letter from my mother-in-law, mentioning a notarized will hidden behind the chest's secret door. We were just as surprised. In the letter my mother-in-law sent earlier, she disclosed the hiding spot to us. Along with practical details, she explained her reasons for making the notarized will and why she shared it with me. She had sensed her health declining and prepared the will, suspecting that my brother-in-law and his wife might try to interfere with it. While I had thought my mother-in-law was oblivious to my brother-in-law and his wife's true nature, it seemed she had a faint inkling of their greed. The notarized will stipulated that the assets would be split equally between my brother-in-law and my husband. What? She did this? My brother-in-law and his wife were stunned, their eyes wide. Then my brother-in-law's demeanor shifted abruptly, and he exclaimed, "Ah, right. As the eldest son, I'm supposed to be the beneficiary of Mom's life insurance, aren't I?" His eyes gleamed with intensity as he spoke. I replied in a chilly tone, "In addition to the notarized will, your mother also left me the life insurance certificate, with myself as the beneficiary." Inside the hidden compartment of the chest, alongside the notarized will, was the life insurance certificate. My brother-in-law and his wife balked at the documents in disbelief, their eyes fixed on them. "I never heard about this. I had no idea," the lawyer interjected. "Changing a life insurance beneficiary doesn't always require notifying the previous one." Despite my brother-in-law's protests and table slamming, the lawyer intervened. Turning to me, my husband asked anxiously, "When did Mom entrust you with this?" I didn't know. I reassured him with a smile. It was all in the letter I received from her. She wanted to tell you too, but she was worried about raising suspicion with your brother and his wife if both of us were involved. So she entrusted it to me alone. I understand. It makes sense, considering how close Mom and you were, my husband remarked. As we spoke, my sister-in-law burst in, hysterical. I can't accept this. Why should you, who didn't even show your children to my mother-in-law, inherit her estate? This is ridiculous. I won't accept it. My brother-in-law chimed in, his face reddening with anger. Exactly. You have no right to Mom's estate. We lived here just for her inheritance, splitting it equally. Don't make me laugh. It's all ours. My sister-in-law continued to shout, adding to his selfish claims. We have 3 children. As compensation for not showing my mother-in-law any grandchildren, you should give all of her inheritance to our children for their future. We have given her 3 grandchildren, so we deserve it more. The inheritance belongs to us. Despite my sister-in-law's aggressive outbursts, I remained composed. Your arguments don't make sense. Let's try to calm down, I said calmly, but it only seemed to fuel her anger further. Your calmness is so infuriating. Just give us the money already. You're worthless without children, she shouted, launching herself at me. My husband and the lawyer stepped in to stop her, but before they could, she landed a punch on my head. Ouch! I cried out in pain. Stop it! My husband and the lawyer managed to restrain her, but she continued to struggle, demanding the inheritance. Her eyes were wild and her face contorted with rage. Meanwhile, my brother-in-law encouraged her, urging her to hit me more. Enraged, my husband called the police to intervene. When the police arrived, my husband and the lawyer briefed them on the situation. My brother-in-law and his wife were escorted away. We thanked the lawyer and decided to let him go for the day. What was meant to be a discussion about dividing the estate turned into chaos. We agreed to send a gift as an apology. My husband had been worried about my well-being since the incident, but he relaxed when I assured him that my headache had gone away. Reflecting on the tumultuous events, I sighed. It's been quite intense. Then my husband brought up something unexpected. You know, Amy always seems to boast about her children and money, he said. It was true. My sister-in-law constantly flaunted her children and showed an intense fixation on money. During the previous argument about money, my sister-in-law's fixation on her children and money became evident. Her expression during the altercation was truly frightening. You're right, it's a bit unsettling, my husband mused, falling into silence afterward. Sensing his unease, I asked, is something bothering you? Yeah, there's something on my mind. I'm thinking of suggesting it to my brother. I believe it might be wise to have DNA tests done for their 3 children, my husband revealed, surprising me. DNA tests? I echoed, taken aback. Yeah, and I'm also considering proposing a background check on Amy. Something doesn't feel right. It's just a gut feeling, he explained. Though I initially thought it might be unnecessary, my husband's intuition had proven accurate before. All right, if that's what you think, let's discuss it with your brother later. When my husband broached the topic with my brother-in-law, he reacted with ridicule and extensive yelling. Just because you don't have kids yourselves, don't doubt ours, he shouted. However, before leaving, he demanded materials about DNA testing from my husband. It seemed my brother-in-law had his own thoughts on the matter. The shocking truth emerged from the DNA tests conducted between my brother-in-law and his children. It was revealed that 2 out of 3 of his children did not share his blood. I had my doubts about the youngest because their features didn't resemble either of us much. But I never expected this from the middle one. My husband muttered, stunned by the revelation. My brother-in-law delved into his wife's background, and the findings were damning. It appeared that my sister-in-law had been involved with multiple men even before marrying my brother-in-law. Furthermore, her recent affairs had been exposed to the wives of her lovers, who were now seeking compensation. As my sister-in-law spent more time at home than my brother-in-law, she carefully concealed any notices, such as registered letters. Upon examining the details, it became clear that the total amount of compensation demanded far exceeded my sister-in-law's earnings or savings. Ultimately, it seemed my sister-in-law was determined to claim my mother-in-law's inheritance for herself at any cost. As events unfolded, my brother-in-law and sister-in-law escalated into a violent altercation, hurling objects and exchanging blows until blood was drawn. Disturbed by the commotion, neighbors alerted the police, leading to their arrest on charges of assault, in addition to the ongoing investigation into the forged will. Further inquiry revealed a history of theft and harassment against wealthy individuals, compounding their legal troubles. Ultimately, both ended up incarcerated. Concerns arose about the future of their 3 children, for whom we were now the closest relatives since our mother-in-law's passing. Despite considering taking them in, we hesitated. The children had been deeply influenced by their parents' toxic behavior, referring to us disdainfully as childless incompetence. Even the eldest at 14 and the youngest at 7 demonstrated a shocking lack of respect or understanding of proper conduct. Despite their parents' predicament, their attitudes remained unchanged. Hearing our 14-year-old nephew dismiss us as childless idiots was disheartening beyond words. Exposed to such hostility, we found it impossible to nurture affection or optimism about their upbringing. In the end, we decided to reach out to my sister-in-law's parents and formally cut ties with the children. It seemed they understood our decision, as our nephew bitterly remarked, "I'd rather live in Grandma's old shack with a clueless, childless couple." It was clear this was the best course for everyone involved. We chose not to disclose the fact that the younger 2 children were not biologically related to my brother-in-law. Whether to reveal the truth or not, we left in the hands of my brother-in-law and his wife's relatives. My husband and I made the decision to relocate to a distant place, using the inheritance from my mother-in-law to start anew. Our new home was surrounded by lush greenery and nature, instantly making us feel at peace. There was a quaint waffle shop nearby, where we often reminisced about my mother-in-law, wishing she could have joined us. Shortly after the move, I discovered I was pregnant, a long-awaited blessing that filled us both with overwhelming joy. The positive pregnancy test brought tears to our eyes, and later, the doctor confirmed the news, leaving us elated. We couldn't help but imagine how thrilled my mother-in-law would have been if she were still with us. In addition to the pregnancy, the entrepreneurial venture I had been quietly planning was also progressing smoothly. My husband and I worked diligently, anticipating the arrival of our child and cherishing each day filled with happiness. Waking up to the presence of an ignoramus in the morning was akin to inhaling poison that would linger throughout my workday. Each sunrise brought with it the burden of enduring the condescension of an elite chief, a product of some lofty institution of higher learning. On a particular day, my tolerance reached its breaking point. "Perhaps you should escalate your grievances to our superiors," she taunted. "After all, I belong to the cream of society. Nobody will heed the complaints of a dropout like you." Her smugness was palpable, but a single encounter with the passing company president swiftly altered her demeanor. "Good day, I'm Daniel Smith," he introduced himself. "I landed a sales position at this company's branch straight out of high school. My father's motorcycle accident left him incapacitated, rendering him unable to provide for our family. So I opted to forgo college and joined the workforce to support them, thanks to a referral from my father." The camaraderie among the employees at this company made each workday a delight. My boss is kind, and my coworkers are a breeze to work with, so work-related stress rarely crosses my mind. Yet today, I can't shake off this feeling of melancholy. "Smith, isn't your meeting today with the head office?" a colleague inquired. "Yeah, it is." "Seriously, that means they'll be here, right? I should have taken the day off." "You don't interact with them directly, so just keep it to yourself." "I'm already feeling down this morning." Before my colleague could continue, they abruptly changed the topic. "Why was nobody at the entrance to greet me? I was expected, and this is how they welcome me," they grumbled. "Forget it, let's just get to work," they muttered, then hurried away. "Remember that backstabber?" A disgruntled voice, now left with me, seethed. "This place is full of ingrates. It's infuriating that I have to bend over backward just to communicate with them. I sincerely apologize. I didn't anticipate your early arrival." She's Manager Jones, frequently commuting from headquarters for meetings and such. With a degree from a prestigious university, she was recruited as a seasoned executive candidate. Unfortunately, her demeanor often veered into arrogance, belittling employees at the subsidiaries. "They're all just typical uneducated incompetents," she'd sneer, making me look like a fool. "Let's just get this over with. Could you kindly wait a bit longer for another key person to join us? They're en route." "What? You expect me to wait?" My role is to hit the ground running upon arrival from headquarters. This incompetence is beyond belief. I deeply apologize. You're here 20 minutes ahead of schedule, yet you're being unreasonable. I yearned to retort, but the person on the other end was from the head office, an elite recognized by headquarters. I hesitated, unsure of the repercussions if I dared to challenge her authority. We grumble amongst ourselves at the subsidiary, but when it comes down to it, we never confront them, always enduring silently. As I carried on with my usual routine, driving to work one morning, I noticed an elderly lady in distress crouched in the middle of the road. It was clearly an emergency, but those around me either avoided involvement or didn't know how to react, feigning ignorance as they passed her by. "Are you all right, ma'am?" I rushed to her side, but she couldn't respond. Her breathing was labored, and she struggled to speak. "I'm calling an ambulance right away," I announced, swiftly dialing 911. Once the ambulance arrived, we all accompanied the elderly lady to the hospital. "It's all right for you to head home," the nurse reassured us. "We'll take care of her until her family arrives." Having already informed the company of my tardiness and concern for the grandmother's well-being, I opted to stay until her family showed up. Thankfully, her condition wasn't critical, and she was discharged after a few days. We breathed a collective sigh of relief. Then, a few weeks later, out of the blue, I received a transfer order to the headquarters branch office, a directive straight from the president. Contemplating the move, a colleague offered their perspective. "It's a testament to your hard work being recognized. Embrace it and give it your all." Encouraged by their words, I resolved to accept the transfer. My first day at headquarters proved to be quite the whirlwind. Deciding to greet each department individually, I encountered the chief in the corridor and hastened to offer my greetings, but she caught sight of me and shot me a disdainful glance. "What brings you here? Aren't you a bit out of your element?" "Good morning, Chief. I've been reassigned here." "Oh, you're being relocated. What on earth are they thinking?" Disregarding my greeting, the chief launched into a tirade. "Starting my day by sharing airspace with an uneducated imbecile is a surefire way to ruin my entire workday. I apologize if I've inconvenienced you, Chief. Please spare me the pleasantries. Just steer clear of me. I'm busy. Don't get in my way." Clearly in a foul mood, the chief dismissed me with a wave of her hand, as if shooing away bothersome insects. It was evident that any further attempt at conversation would be futile, so I resigned myself to returning to my duties. As I returned to the floor where the chief was, I overheard her berating her subordinate. "You're incompetent. How can you mess up something so simple? Even a new recruit could handle this." "I apologize, colleague." The employee, visibly distraught over her mistake, clenched her fists, lowered her head, and endured the scolding. "If this is how it's going to be, I'd rather have someone else working for me than you. You're no longer of any use to me. Clear out your desk and get out of my sight." With those cutting words, she turned to face me, our eyes meeting. Already discontented, her expression soared further as she glared at me. "Didn't I tell you to stay away from me this morning? Please, Chief, hear me out. I have something to discuss with you today." "Enough. Everyone here is arrogant. I don't have time for incompetent fools like you." With those words, the chief stormed out of the room, slamming the door with all her might. Concerned, I approached the employee who had just faced the chief's wrath, wincing at the resounding crash of the door. "Is this typical of the chief's behavior?" I inquired. According to the employee, it wasn't just typical, it was a daily occurrence. "She's always disrespecting me," he lamented. Worried that the chief might overhear, he hushed me, cautioning, "Shh, she might hear you." Aware of the potential consequences if the chief caught wind of his complaints, I did my best to soothe his frustration. "I've endured this for too long," he confided, shuffling to his desk and retrieving a white envelope from a drawer. "Please don't tell me that's a resignation letter," I implored. "Unfortunately, that's exactly what it was," he confirmed, something he'd been contemplating for some time. "At my previous workplace, every day was serene and fulfilling. But ever since the chief arrived, it's turned into a nightmare," he lamented, tracing the surface of his desk with a heavy sigh. The clutter of documents and notes bespoke his dedication to his job, despite the upheaval. "I understand your frustration. It's disheartening to see your hard work undermined by just one person, the chief. I sympathize. You've poured your heart into this job, longer than she's been here, and you've excelled." But his frustration hung palpably in the air, with no outlet in sight. "The chief might say otherwise, but there are surely colleagues who trust and rely on you. Stay a bit longer for their sake. I'll help shoulder the burden. You're not the one who should walk away," I encouraged. What do you mean? He queried, his curiosity piqued as I made my way to confront the chief, leaving him pondering behind. We can't allow any more employees to be mistreated like him. That's why I'm here, I declared, trailing after the chief until I found her in the break room, sipping tea. Mind if I join you? I inquired. The chief glanced up, her expression pained. You're still here. You're as persistent as a fly. I'm just trying to take a break. Please give me some space, she sighed wearily, likely drained from the recent confrontation. Summoning my courage, I addressed her firmly. Chief, I'll be conducting a thorough investigation into your treatment of our employees. Depending on the findings, appropriate actions will be taken. My direct statement caught the chief off guard. What are you implying? Are you trying to play the hero to shield incompetence? No, that's not my intention. Why don't you go run to your superiors with this? I'm an elite, you know. I have the backing of those above. Nobody will pay heed to a dropout like you from the subsidiary, she retorted dismissively, waving her hand as if to brush off the matter. Suddenly, a man emerged from the other side. Smith, there you are. How's everything going? It was the president. I'm doing my best, thanks to your support. Ah, hello, Mr. President. What a pleasant surprise to see you here. What happened to the grumpy chief from earlier? She's putting on a facade of excellence for those higher up the chain. I'm glad to hear you're thriving. Have you connected with the new branch manager? Huh? What new branch manager? The chief looked puzzled, her gaze unfocused. He's standing right in front of you. Hadn't you been briefed? The president chuckled. This inept employee from a subsidiary company. You're quite the comedian, boss, the chief scoffed, joining in the laughter. The president, however, regarded her with suspicion. What are you talking about? Are you suggesting I'm joking? Understand this. He's now the brand manager of this branch office. It's impolite to label him incompetent, the president admonished. What on earth? The chief shot me a scowl. You didn't bother to inform me earlier, did you? I've already informed the rest of the department. Oh dear, such a rude and ill-informed individual. The chief's face flushed with anger, and she looked on the verge of collapse. Observing the situation with reluctance, the president finally spoke up. Let me shed some light on this remarkable opportunity. This company belonged to his father. Due to a car accident injury, his father couldn't manage it, so I took over. Is he the former president's son? The chief inquired. That's correct. I've been urging him to relocate to headquarters, but he's quite adamant about staying put, the president explained. I apologize. I have a fondness for that place, and I found it satisfying, I replied. What prompted your unexpected arrival here? Why didn't you just continue at the subsidiary? The chief interjected, momentarily forgetting the president's presence as she directed her query at me. The president, accustomed to seeing the chief in a more composed state, was visibly taken aback, his eyes widening in surprise. I made a heartfelt plea to him. He's my mother's savior, her benefactor, I clarified. What about the president's mother? The chief pressed further. Yes, the elderly lady I rescued a few weeks ago happened to be the president's mother. When he arrived at the hospital entrance and found me waiting for her family, I was surprised. I later learned that he was the one who had immediately come to her aid, calling for an ambulance while others ignored her. I felt he deserved better than being relegated to a subsidiary. So, you personally appointed him as branch manager, the president confirmed. That's correct, he nodded. I had my doubts about my qualifications when I was first appointed as branch manager, I admitted. Coming from a subsidiary, it was a sudden shift to leading at the head office. But after hearing from the president and receiving a call from my father urging me to support the company he had built, I made up my mind. That's precisely why I've appointed him as branch manager. Moving forward, I expect you to show him the respect he deserves and heed his directives, the president admonished the chief sternly before exiting the room. That's the explanation, chief, I reiterated as I faced her once more. You've been mistreating not only your subordinates but also those under your direct supervision. I understand the frustration and pain of being belittled simply because of lacking formal education. No. The chief collapsed into her chair, tears streaming down her face as her pride took a severe blow. It was no small shock for her to suddenly find herself outranked by someone she had long looked down upon for their perceived lack of education. She even threatened to have me dismissed. With that, my ordeal came to an end. The following day, a comprehensive investigation into the chief's conduct was conducted. Numerous employees and subordinates came forward with accounts of her egregious behavior. As a result, disciplinary action was taken. Upon receiving the news, the chief left the company without a word, her spirits seemingly drained. The chief appeared visibly distraught. Considering her high self-esteem, it was understandable. "By the way, are you certain you want me to replace the chief?" I inquired. "I have full confidence in you," the president affirmed. With the chief dismissed, he appointed the individual who had previously endured her wrath. This employee had a long tenure with the company and showed unwavering dedication to their work. Naturally, I had thoroughly vetted his past performance, knowing he had first-hand experience of the frustrations and mistreatment under former Chief Jones. I knew he wouldn't repeat the same mistakes and would prove to be a compassionate leader who understands his employees' feelings, I explained. As for myself, I endeavored to approach my role from the perspective of the employees, not solely as a branch manager. Drawing from my positive experiences with a subsidiary I had previously worked with, I conducted regular interviews with staff, seeking their input. I also organized training sessions for employees in leadership roles, striving to foster a more supportive environment. Through these efforts, the company's culture gradually improved, resembling the positive atmosphere of the subsidiary where I began my career. Will Smith, I apologize for what happened with Jones, but thanks to your efforts, this company is thriving, the president acknowledged. "Oh, I'm apprehensive," I admitted. At a later meeting, I found myself summoned to the president's office for a casual coffee chat. He wanted to discuss the recent developments in the workplace. I'm not getting any younger, eventually. I envision Will stepping into my role, the president shared. "With all respect, Mr. President, I don't see myself as presidential material," I responded. "Why not? Your father would have wanted the same," he countered. I aspire to remain aligned with the employees, working alongside them to support the company and engage with our customers. Once in the president's seat, that connection may become strained, I explained. The president frowned at my words before abruptly excusing himself. "You have a unique sense of humor. Most would leap at the opportunity," he remarked upon his departure. Am I considered eccentric? I wondered aloud. No, it's refreshing. It's exactly the kind of mindset we need in a Smith, he assured, giving my shoulder a firm tap. You have a meeting coming up, don't you? Get back to work. My name is Luda Okojima. I'm 29 and work for a big international company. I grew up in the United States until I was 18. My dad is Japanese and my mom is white. He's the boss at the company where I work. I learned 5 languages when I was very young, thanks to tutoring. Now I'm in charge of the company's operations in Japan, all thanks to my dad's support and the education he gave me. I followed my mom's beliefs and agreed to an arranged marriage. My husband, Akinari, is 6 years older than me. Love wasn't what brought us together. As we started living together, I noticed things that bothered him. The laundry needs washing. We only talk about basic stuff because of our situation. I've been swamped with work emails this week, sorry. That's not an excuse, Han. Lots of wives work and still manage their homes. He was firm about our roles. I work hard, but living together is new to me. I was doing my best to adapt. You're just standing there drinking coffee. How does that help? Drinking coffee helps me wake up and get ready for the day. It's my routine. Mind your own business. Akinari has always been like this since we got married. Maybe he doesn't really love me. He often reminds me that I was homeschooled, so I should be good at housework. Okay, yes, I can handle the housework. You knew that from the beginning. You're so focused on yourself, even though you didn't have a proper education. This household functions because of me. Remember that. We lived in a 4-bedroom house. It was Akinari's dream to own a home, so we took out a loan and got approved. It wasn't something I cared much about, but he made it seem like a manly achievement I wouldn't understand. We never really talked much about our jobs. Education isn't everything, I said simply. Are you testing me? You're belittling my education. According to you, the husband should be the main provider, and the wife should silently follow. Plus, you have a strong accent. People can barely understand you here. We're in Japan. He criticized me for everything. I grew up in the US, so my Japanese won't sound perfect. My mom helped me with pronunciation, but I speak 5 languages. I won't sound like a native Japanese because I'm not. He didn't know this, so he assumed I was unintelligent. I'm going to do the laundry. I'm off today, and Akinari will be leaving for work soon. He's a big germaphobe and always tells me you must bleach the toilet seat after every use. He washed me closely to ensure I cleaned everything after each use. When we moved in together, I used to wear shoes indoors, which is normal in America. Are you white or Japanese? Stop being gross like everyone in America. Take off your shoes, he snapped. In my mind, I thought, I am white. Half white. He was obsessed with cleanliness, always armed with hand sanitizer wipes and disinfectant. At home, he made me feel like I was the messiest person alive. Sorry for the germs, I'd say, wiping things down daily. Honestly, it got annoying. As I loaded the washer, I thought I heard him call, so I went to see what he needed. Did you call me? He snapped back. I did, but you took forever to come. You're just testing my patience. I couldn't hear you. I was doing laundry, and the machine is loud. I explained honestly. You couldn't hear over the washer? Are you deaf? You're pathetic. That's why people without degrees never achieve anything. My husband loved reminding me of my background. I couldn't finish my degree in the US because my father changed jobs. When we moved to Japan, I had to get a degree to work. I passed the entrance exam at a community college known for failures and dropouts. My husband graduated from the University of Tokyo. Coming from America, I didn't realize how prestigious that was until after we got married. But to me, a person's value goes beyond their degree. Is it really such a big deal that I graduated from a community college? What about all the other people in Japan who did too? Do you think less of them as well? I started questioning his values. What's the problem with being a community college graduate? There are many talented people in the world, no matter where they studied. In my company, there are even some who only finished high school, and they're doing great. I don't understand why he's so focused on appearances. In Japan, education is important, but doesn't everyone deserve respect regardless of their education level? I'm sorry, I didn't realize. Oh, so you went to the University of Tokyo, right? Isn't that like the top-notch education? The University of Tokyo? Ha, it's impressive. It's almost funny because you don't even grasp how amazing it is. I'm embarrassed I married someone not as smart as me. If it wasn't for our moms knowing each other, I wouldn't have gone through with this marriage. You don't deserve someone like me. He often talks about himself and points out what I lack compared to him. He enjoys making me feel inferior. In my opinion, people like him shouldn't be the most successful at their jobs. But strangely, his education seemed enough for him to succeed, even though I couldn't relate. I said, I get it. Someone like me doesn't deserve someone as smart as you. Whatever. Just listen to me. I went to the University of Tokyo, so I'll guide you. Just don't try to do things on your own. He's got a big ego and always wants to be in charge. I can't even slightly disagree with him because he always has to have the final word. Okay, time to head to work. Akinari grabbed his suitcase, leaving his coffee half finished, and dashed out the door. I glanced at the table and started tidying up. Isn't this table clean enough? I muttered to myself. 3 hours after he left for work, I got a call. Hello? What? With a subcontractor? Got it. I'll be there ASAP. My company informed me about a mistake found in an order with one of the subcontractors I oversee. They failed to deliver the materials we needed on time for our next project, which would now be delayed. To make matters worse, the materials are coming from overseas, adding extra time and cost. It was supposed to be my day off, but work couldn't wait. When I arrived, everyone was busy, and I immediately met with a team to assess the situation. I reviewed invoices and prioritized materials for the building starting construction soon. I managed a plan for the construction to start next week, but I knew the issue wasn't resolved yet. If the additional materials didn't arrive on time, it would affect future projects too. Normally, the subcontractor would handle such issues, but this time it fell on me. After a tiring day, I finally returned home from work, expecting a relaxing day off. I collapsed into bed and quickly fell asleep. Luda, Luda. I heard my name and stirred awake. I'm sorry, I must have dozed off, I said, though I wasn't truly apologetic. Still, Akinari was quick to judge. You're so privileged. You have a day off and can't even cook dinner for your husband. Instead, you sleep. He was already starting with the criticism, even though I had just woken up. I'm sorry, I had to go to work. There was an urgent situation. I explained, but he retorted, what kind of company calls its employees on their day off? I had a tough day too, you know. He always wanted his problems to take precedence. Perhaps he couldn't handle the idea of his wife being a better employee. It might have been his ego stemming from his prestigious alma mater, the University of Tokyo. Knowing his patterns by now, I tuned him out. Wait, it's 8 o'clock. I glanced at the clock and gasped. I've been asleep for 5 hours since I got home from work. The laundry I started this morning is still in the washer, and I haven't even made dinner. Suddenly, all the tasks I needed to do hit me at once. What are you waiting for? Make dinner first, then clean the tub. After that, do the laundry and the rest of the cleaning. There was a piece of your hair on the floor. It's filthy. His anger hadn't subsided, especially since I had fallen asleep. He never lifted a finger to help around the house since we got married, and he wasn't about to start now. He dictated my tasks and strolled into the living room. I hurried out of bed, washed my face, and started cooking dinner. Just as dinner was almost ready, Akinari's phone rang. It's me. It's happening again. Just stay quiet for now. Don't say a word. If they find out, we could be sued, and I'll bear the brunt of it. Be careful, he said, then abruptly ended the call. Who was that? Work? Did you mention something about being sued? Is there something going on? I already had a sense that something was going on after overhearing his conversation, but he refused to acknowledge it. Please just relax. It's not your concern. Besides, even if there was an issue, your small mind wouldn't be able to handle it, he retorted, hitting me with an unexpected insult. I seethed with anger, but focused on getting through dinner without responding. I'm heading to the office, he suddenly declared, swiftly grabbing his phone and wallet. Before I could question him, he was out the door. I noticed he'd left his suitcase behind, and a file protruded from it. What's this? As I examined the file, labeled Okadera Mountain Resort Hotel Construction Plan Details, shock shot through me. I quickly snapped a photo with my phone as evidence before carefully returning everything to its place. By the time Akinari returned just before midnight, I was seething. I heard him announce his arrival and head toward the living room. Welcome back, I greeted him. I need dinner first, he demanded. I simply replied, I didn't make any. What? What did you say? You didn't cook? He raised his voice. Yes, I had something more important to attend to, I retorted. You're making excuses again. How much incompetence can one tolerate? That's why I can't stand you, with your community college background. I don't even care if we get a divorce at this point, he declared, his tone deadly serious. He was a staunch believer in patriarchal control, always insisting on having his way. I finally reached my breaking point and snapped back, fine, let's get a divorce. He was taken aback by my response. Divorce? What? He asked, bewildered. I pressed on. You've been belittling me, making me feel unintelligent, but that's far from the truth. My words struck a nerve, leaving him puzzled. What do you mean? He questioned. I haven't mentioned it because I don't care about school. But I actually attended Harvard University, I revealed. Harvard? Do you even know what Harvard is? His shock was evident. Oh, didn't your mother tell you? I was born and raised in the US. I lived there until I was 18, I explained. You? What? Are you serious? Akinari looked pained. His ego took a hit. He had been proud of his degree from Japan's top university, but this revelation reminded him of even more prestigious institutions. You're joking. There's no way I believe that, he scoffed, growing disrespectful. Are you feeling offended? You seem to resort to inappropriate remarks when you're caught off guard. I guess the University of Tokyo isn't as prestigious as you thought, I said, surprised by my own assertiveness. My feelings aren't hurt. I just need proof. Show me the evidence, he insisted, needing tangible proof to believe my claim. So I showed him a photo from my freshman year orientation. Can you read English? The sign clearly says Harvard Unit. I pointed out. Don't mock me. I can read that, he retorted, scrutinizing the photo himself. Do you believe me now? Why did you hide this from me? If I had known, I wouldn't have married you, he remarked, his ego clearly wounded. Was it necessary to feel superior to your wife? I challenged. And no, my mom never mentioned it. And what do you mean you didn't care? It's like you weren't interested in me at all, he deflected, playing the victim. Isn't it wrong to judge people based on their education? Despite appearances, I can speak 5 languages: English, Japanese, Spanish, French, and Portuguese. How many can you speak? Being a University of Tokyo graduate, what does intelligence mean to you? What's so impressive about your alma mater? I taunted, watching him squirm. 5 languages, really? Then why did you attend that community college? It's like you did it to deceive me, and don't even try. My superiority stems from attending the University of Tokyo, he stubbornly asserted. Clearly, his alma mater held immense significance and prestige in his eyes. I pressed on, sensing his frustration. Judging people solely based on their educational background is narrow-minded. True value lies in someone's ability to excel regardless of where they studied. That's why I hold a high position in my company, I stated, watching him struggle to process my words. Until now, he had always believed himself to be superior to me. It seemed this revelation shifted his perspective. Never mind, I need to discuss something more urgent, I interjected, steering the conversation back to the main issue. While I knew it was leading towards discussing divorce plans, there was another matter I had to address first. Akinari was taken aback, wondering what else I had to say. Handing him the file I had found earlier, I demanded, "Explain what this is." Before he could respond, I continued, "This is the detailed plan for the Okadera Mountain Resort Hotel construction project. I know it's a significant project you're working on. How did you?" he began, but I cut him off. "I saw it sticking out of your bag, so I looked. You went through my private work files? Do you realize how serious this is? If this information were to fall into the wrong hands," he started, his voice rising in alarm. "What are you afraid of? Being sued by my company and having the truth exposed? Is that what would happen if this ever got into the wrong hands?" I challenged. Akinari was left speechless, his eyes wide with shock. "We've both been distant from each other. That document is a joint construction project agreement and contract between my company and yours. See where it says cooperating company and XS company. XS company is mine, and I'm the vice president," I revealed with a smile. His mouth fell open, a bead of sweat trickling down his face. He began to panic and feigned examining the document. "No, that can't be right. It must be a mistake from my assistant in the material order or something. Are you making excuses now?" I didn't even mention the material order. We were investigating why we lost contact with your company and realized there was an error in the order. We plan to confirm it later, but your admission just confirmed it, I countered. He covered his mouth, perhaps trying to stop himself from saying more. "It's too late now," he interjected sharply, "and based on what I heard on the phone, it seems you're the one responsible for this mess. You can't even manage to place orders correctly or handle the construction schedule. It's clear that a University of Tokyo graduate doesn't live up to the hype. Or do you still believe you're so brilliant?" He continued, cutting me off before I could respond. "Why does my wife's company have to outshine mine? How is this even possible? This is absurd. I'm intelligent and capable because of my University of Tokyo degree. You know it," he lamented to himself. In response, I calmly stated, "Well, I've never considered you particularly bright." "Oh, please." The sight of his expression makes me nauseous. As the vice president and head of this project, I'm halting all transactions with your company and seeking damages for this project. Additionally, I'll be filing for divorce. I informed him of the 3 actions I intended to take. "Please, anything but that," my usually disrespectful husband begged, his palms pressed together. "What do you mean anything but that?" "You mean all 3 actions. All of them. My entire life will crumble at once," he pleaded. "Yes, all of them. It seems it's not just one issue now, is it?" I couldn't help but chuckle at his incompetence. This time, as he watched me laugh at him, he felt a deep sense of shame. I no longer wish to be associated with such incompetence, whether as a couple or a company. "It's time to let go and preserve what dignity you have left," I advised him. At that moment, he seemed to realize he had run out of options. Desperately, he clung to my leg, perhaps in a last-ditch effort to save himself. "Please don't leave me. Don't leave me." The once confident man now sounded desperate, resembling a child being punished by being kicked out of his parents' home. Ignoring his pleas, I made a phone call instead. "Hi, President. I'll explain the details later, but I've identified the person responsible for the project mishap. Yes, I'll ensure damages are claimed properly. Okay, bye." After hanging up, he slowly released my leg and stared at the floor. Exhausted, I decided to head to bed without a word, leaving him behind. The next morning, my husband was nowhere to be found. Before heading to work, I stopped by the courthouse to obtain divorce paperwork, which I kept in my purse. I planned to have him sign the papers after work. Upon arriving at the office, I encountered a commotion at the entrance. Akinari was amidst a group of men, engaged in a heated dispute. "I'm terribly sorry," the president apologized upon seeing me approach. "They've been causing a disturbance for the past 30 minutes, so I decided to call the police." Shortly after, the police arrived and intervened. Amidst the chaos, I couldn't make out what was being said. After giving them a stern warning, the police dispersed the group and they left. That evening, Akinari returned home with a defeated air about him. Without a word, he silently signed the papers I presented. "Never subject yourself to such humiliation again," I admonished, but he seemed to be lost in his own world, broken and detached. Ensuring he completed all the paperwork correctly, I gathered my belongings and left without another word, opting to stay in a hotel until I found a new place. The following day, I filed the necessary paperwork to finalize the divorce. Our marriage had lacked love from the start, so I felt neither sadness nor stress over its dissolution. Life continued as usual, and 2 weeks later, I learned that my ex-husband's company had declared bankruptcy. Despite paying the damages to my company, they couldn't sustain future projects due to financial constraints. Consequently, my ex-husband, the project leader, faced legal action from the company, as my boss informed me. Ironically, my ex-husband's emphasis on education as a measure of competence had backfired. His downfall underscored the truth that academic credentials alone don't guarantee success. While Japan values higher education, once in a company, everyone is on equal footing. Success depends on resourcefulness and intentions, not just academic prowess. With this realization, I reaffirmed my belief that a person's educational background isn't paramount. Instead, dedication and determination are what truly matter. Armed with this perspective, I vowed to continue my journey with unwavering dedication, confident that success would follow. As Mary, nearing her late 50s, reflects on her life, she finds herself at a turning point. With her 2 children, one on the brink of marriage and the other thriving in college, she senses her motherly duties waning. As a former nurse, she contemplates a return to caregiving, feeling the pull of her profession once more. However, life throws her a curveball when she receives distressing news. Her father-in-law, Bob, has suffered a stroke. Rushing to the hospital at her husband John's urgent call, Mary's thoughts swirl with concern. Bob, always a pillar of kindness and warmth, has been grappling with the loss of his wife, Alice, for the past 3 years. Despite Mary's efforts to uplift his spirits through family gatherings and outings, she's noticed a gradual decline in Bob's energy. Just as she begins to see glimmers of his old vitality returning, the news of his stroke hits her like a thunderbolt. Arriving at the hospital, she finds Bob's daughter and son-in-law engaged in conversation, a mix of emotions swirling within her. "Apologies for my tardiness. How's Bob holding up?" I gasped out, hurting to catch up with John's sister, Isabella. Her response was a sigh of irritation as she glanced my way. Clearly annoyed. "You're late. We're in a hurry. Can you handle this?" With that brisk dismissal, she hurried off, leaving me behind. Isabella's indifference towards Bob was palpable, a demeanor she carried even when Alice, Bob's late wife, was alive. Despite Bob and Alice's unwavering kindness, Isabella remained aloof, untouched by their warmth. Left alone in the waiting area, I paced nervously, my thoughts consumed by Bob's condition. Meanwhile, John rushed in, his concern evident in the beads of sweat on his forehead and his soaked dress shirt. "Mary, how's Dad?" he asked anxiously. I shook my head, indicating I had no updates yet. John's reaction was visceral. He dropped the bags he was carrying, his complexion draining of color. "No, that's not what I meant," I reassured him quickly. "He's still in surgery. We're waiting for news." Relief washed over John, evident in the way he retrieved his fallen bags and slumped into a nearby chair. "Should we brace ourselves?" I hurried over to John, who teetered on the edge of tears, and placed a comforting hand on his back. "It'll be all right," I murmured, feeling utterly helpless with no words substantial enough to offer solace. Hours ticked by before the surgery's conclusion, and we were ushered into a small room by the doctor for an update. "The surgery went well, but there may be lasting effects," the doctor explained gently, indicating that Bob would require ongoing care. While our hearts hoped for Bob's swift recovery, the reality of caregiving loomed, a responsibility that would involve Isabella and her husband. John and I decided to reach out to Isabella to discuss the next steps. After a conversation, we agreed to convene at Bob's home, a gathering necessitated by the circumstances while Bob remained hospitalized. "I won't be his caregiver," Isabella declared bluntly, sending shockwaves through John and me. "But what are we supposed to do then?" I countered, baffled by her indifference. Isabella, nonchalant, continued toying with her meticulously manicured nails, a stark contrast to the gravity of the conversation. Her husband, Tom, simply nodded along. "What about a nursing home?" I suggested, met with Isabella's vehement refusal. "I'm not wasting money on that. This is what happens whenever I get involved," she snapped, shooting me a venomous glare. "It's like my opinion doesn't matter, so I keep quiet. If he can't go to a facility and neither of you will care for him, what's the plan?" John pressed, frustration seeping into his voice. "That's why you should handle it. I don't want some burden in my home," Isabella chuckled callously, pushing me to my breaking point. "Enough. He's your father, for heaven's sake," I snapped, my patience wearing thin. "I don't care. Why am I expected to bear the responsibility just because he's my father? He's John's father too. I've been saying you two should handle it." I don't have a response to that. We'd love to care for him at home, but our house isn't equipped for it, I explained, feeling the weight of reality pressing down. There are too many obstacles, stairs, uneven floors, to bring my father-in-law here. We need significant renovations and we simply can't afford it. "Mary, you're trained in caregiving, aren't you? It shouldn't be a big deal," Isabella remarked smugly, her tone grating on my nerves. John shared my frustration, and we silently agreed to table the discussion for now, retreating from his parents' home. "What's our next move, Mary? You mentioned considering a return to caregiving," John inquired, his concern evident. "It's not just about the job. We have to make this place safe for Dad, and that's a financial challenge," I replied, trying to reassure him. "You're right," John conceded, acknowledging the daunting road ahead. "I estimate it could cost around $100,000. That's just a ballpark figure, but considering the modifications needed for the entire first floor to accommodate him, that's roughly what we're looking at," I mused aloud, grappling with the daunting financial reality. With our eldest still in college, we simply don't have that kind of money. We're still paying off the mortgage, and the thought of taking on another loan for renovations is overwhelming. It's a difficult decision, but should we consider a facility for him? The question is, would he even be able to get in? The waitlists are long, and the expense is significant, and I doubt Isabella and her family would offer any assistance. It feels like we're stuck with no viable solution. Deciding to at least listen to my father-in-law's perspective, I made my way alone to the hospital where he was admitted. Stepping into his room, I was greeted by a sight that lifted my spirits. My father-in-law, visibly improved, greeted me with a warm smile. "Please don't apologize," my father-in-law would often murmur upon my visits. "There's no trouble at all. And look, I've brought you one of your favorite books today." "Why apologize? You're bringing me joy," I'd respond, trying to uplift his spirits. The doctor had informed us of his stroke, leaving him unable to move the right half of his body independently. To read, he'd prop the book on the table, using a weight to keep the pages steady. "Ah, thank you," my father-in-law replied gratefully, accepting the book I'd brought. I gently placed the book by his pillow. "Dad, I came today because I wanted to talk about what lies ahead," I began, meeting his warm smile with a heavy heart. "Oh, I understand. I'll be fine, even in a nursing home. I've prepared for it, so please don't worry," he reassured me, though I sensed a flicker of loneliness in his eyes. "Well, Dad, if you're open to it, why not come stay with us? I have experience in elderly care, and as a stay-at-home mom, I have the time. John will be there too. Let's live together," I blurted out, sensing his solitude. His surprise was evident, perhaps realizing deep down that returning to his own home, where Isabella and her husband resided, might not be feasible. I couldn't shake the feeling that they'd view him as a burden, ultimately leading to a nursing home. The thought weighed heavily on me, overshadowing my initial intention to listen to my father-in-law's wishes. There was a twinge of guilt toward my husband John, but I knew he'd understand. Now, we needed to arrange for his care upon discharge. Money was a concern, so I decided to seek Isabella's input. With these thoughts swirling in my mind, I made my way home. When John returned from work, I recounted the events at the hospital. He appeared troubled but nodded, almost as if he had anticipated this turn of events. Without delay, John dialed Isabella's number. "We're reaching out for assistance because we'll be the ones caring for Dad," John explained, his voice tinged with frustration as their conversation escalated. With a resigned sigh, he ended the call and briefed me on their exchange. Isabella refused to contribute any funds. "It seems there's little we can do about it," he disclosed, his concern evident as he contemplated the financial implications for his father-in-law. From then on, our home buzzed with activity. We deliberated over renovations, essential care supplies, and received guidance on home care options. When I informed my father-in-law that he'd be moving in with us upon discharge, his expression was a mix of gratitude and regret. "Mary, could you fetch the checkbook from over there?" he requested, gesturing toward a cloth bag on the shelf. Curious as to why he'd need it, I obliged, retrieving the checkbook during one of our visits. Observing my father-in-law, I watched as he opened the bank book and presented it to me. "I have some savings here. Could you and John make use of it?" The figure written in the checkbook was staggering, surpassing any amount I'd ever seen. Stunned, I must have appeared frozen, prompting my father-in-law to chuckle. "You and John will be looking after me now, won't you? I heard about the new car and the renovations to make the house accessible. Would $10 million cover it?" $10 million. The zeros overwhelmed me, leaving me speechless. I couldn't fathom why my father-in-law had amassed such a fortune, but it seemed that after my mother-in-law's passing, he had turned to investments he had been studying, and they had proven lucrative. His savings had grown exponentially, fueled by his restrained spending habits. Yet even if he intended to renovate the house or purchase a car, the sum seemed excessive. Reluctantly, I returned the bank book, shaking my head. "I can't accept this much. Please keep it for yourself." He pushed the book back toward me, insisting, "I can't possibly use all of this. I'd rather return it to you and your family, who are willing to care for me." Once again faced with the returned bank book, I stood my ground. "I really can't accept such a large sum," I insisted firmly. After a brief pause, my father-in-law proposed, "How about $1 million?" Realizing the impasse, I managed to negotiate a compromise, settling on a reduced amount of $100,000. Though he seemed reluctant, he agreed, and for the time being, that seemed satisfactory. As we were in the midst of this exchange, Isabella suddenly appeared, catching us off guard. Quickly, I stashed the bank book back in its place. Seeing my hurried actions, Isabella's brow furrowed in concern. "What's going on?" she inquired, her voice tinged with worry. I breathed a sigh of relief, grateful she hadn't overheard our previous conversation. Isabella had come to deliver some clothes for our father. After a brief exchange, we left the hospital room together. However, on our way home, Isabella suggested stopping by a coffee shop for a discussion. Given her history of bringing up unpleasant topics, I braced myself for what was to come. Reluctantly, I acquiesced, unaware of the twist awaiting us. "I'll take care of Dad," Isabella declared out of the blue, stunning me. Her sudden proposition caught me off guard, especially since we were already knee-deep in preparations to accommodate my father-in-law, including ongoing renovations to our home. I couldn't fathom why she would make such a proposal at this stage. "So you won't need to visit the hospital anymore," she added. "Visiting isn't solely the responsibility of the caregiver. There's no rule dictating that only the caretaker should visit." Why would she say that? I pondered, feeling perplexed by Isabella's unexpected offer. Despite my reservations, I suggested we postpone discussing it further and made my exit from the cafe. Back at home, I shared the encounter with John, who mulled over it before a realization dawned on him. She must have caught wind of the savings, he concluded. "It seems that's the case," he added. "Otherwise, she wouldn't have volunteered for the caretaking role, especially given her previous reluctance." I harbored a vague suspicion that Isabella had somehow discovered the extent of my father-in-law's savings and was angling to secure a share of it for herself. Perhaps she would concoct a reason to start dipping into the funds. "But what do we do about it?" I queried, feeling a sense of unease. "I've got an idea. Let's give her a chance," John suggested with a mischievous grin, hinting at a plan brewing in his mind. Uneasy about his scheme, I opted to stay silent and play along with Isabella's request for the time being. I assured my father-in-law that financial concerns were no longer an issue and that Isabella would be providing care. His response was vague, his expression neither confirming nor denying his comprehension. With that, the conversation concluded. Following his discharge from the hospital, my father-in-law returned to the family home in Nebraska, where Isabella resided. During a visit to the house, I couldn't discern any signs of renovation or adequate caregiving supplies. I questioned whether genuine caregiving could take place under such circumstances. However, it was Isabella's decision, and I felt it wasn't my place to intervene, so I remained silent. 2 months later, I received a frantic call from Isabella. "Mary, I can't do this anymore. Please come over right now," she pleaded urgently. Concerned, I wasted no time and rushed to the house in Nebraska. Upon my arrival, I was greeted by a disarrayed house and a foul odor lingering in the air. Puzzled by the scene before me, Isabella emerged, looking more worn out than ever. Dark circles shadowed her eyes, and her movements were unsteady. "Are you all right?" I asked, rushing to her side, alarmed by her condition. Isabella grasped my hand tightly and muttered, "Get rid of that." Confused at first, I managed to calm her down and coax an explanation out of her. It appeared that she had underestimated the demands of caregiving. From assisting with mobility and meals to managing incontinence, including dealing with diapers, the responsibilities had overwhelmed her. She felt incapable of managing anything, not even attending to her own needs. I reassured her that I couldn't make any immediate decisions but promised to reach out as soon as possible. With a heavy heart, I carried this burden home with me. "It's been 2 months already." "Impressive," John remarked, glancing at the calendar. It seemed he had anticipated this turn of events. He suggested we pick up my father-in-law on his next day off, and I readily agreed. A few days later, as we arrived at the family home in Nebraska, my father-in-law was already packed and prepared to depart. Relief washed over me knowing we could finally bring him home. Just because I endured for 2 months and used to live here doesn't mean I don't deserve compensation. "I think $5 million sounds fair," Isabella declared suddenly as we were assisting my father-in-law into the car. I froze in disbelief. John, too, was taken aback, turning to face Isabella with a mixture of surprise and dismay. But she remained unfazed, sporting a smug expression. "Isabella, what on earth are you talking about? This isn't the time or place to discuss money, especially not in front of Dad. Remember, he raised us," John reasoned, attempting to appeal to her sense of decency, but his words seemed to fall on deaf ears. "I'm his daughter. It's only fair that I get compensated," Isabella retorted defiantly, her audacity catching me off guard. How could she be so brazen? Appalled by Isabella's attitude, I couldn't hold back. "Isabella, discussing money in this manner is completely inappropriate. Besides, you've already received funds," I interjected, my father-in-law echoing my sentiment with a disbelieving expression. "That's all gone now. Just $5 million. What's the harm in that? If you're just going to squander it away, you might as well put it to good use, sis." Isabella's callous words towards her own father left me speechless. Even my typically composed husband John was visibly enraged, his face flushing red with anger as he glared at his sister. "John, it's all right. She's stating the truth." Bob, my father-in-law, attempted to calm his incensed son. Then, turning to Isabella with a stern demeanor, he delivered his verdict. "Isabella, you are no longer welcome in this house. Leave immediately." His tone was cold and final. Stunned by his words, Isabella stood frozen in shock. What? What are you saying?" "I'm your daughter, Dad," Isabella exclaimed in disbelief. "I have only one child, my son, and this woman beside me, Mary, is my daughter-in-law. I no longer recognize you. Leave with your foolish husband." Bob, my father-in-law, responded with a sternness that startled me. I had only known him to be gentle and soft-spoken, but now his eyes were steely, commanding no opposition. Even Isabella seemed subdued by his authority. "Shall we depart then? We're relying on you moving forward," Bob continued, his demeanor shifting back to its usual warmth as he addressed me. With no other recourse, John and I complied with his directive. As we drove away, leaving Isabella behind in stunned silence, it felt surreal. Later, we learned that Bob had arranged with his lawyer to draft a last will and testament, ensuring that the inheritance would solely benefit John and guaranteeing that Isabella would not receive any portion of it. With Isabella gone, the house stood vacant and John and I expressed our desire to reside there. Bob gladly agreed. Isabella and her husband relocated to an apartment, but it became evident they had been tapping into Bob's finances even when he was in good health. Their extravagant spending habits landed them in debt, and now they struggled to settle it. Each day, I can't shake the feeling that this downfall was bound to happen for someone like Isabella, who lacks respect and gratitude towards her parent, regardless of biological ties. While tending to Bob's needs presents its challenges, my background in caregiving allows me to handle it without feeling burdened, and our relationship remains strong. My name is Olivia, and I'm a 32-year-old housewife. My husband, Liam, is 34 and works an ordinary office job. We've been married for 8 years and have a precious daughter named Ava, who is 6 years old. Ava is incredibly adorable, and both Liam and I are completely smitten with her. I have an older sister, Emma, who is 3 years older than me. She recently turned 35 and went through a divorce due to a personality clash, becoming a single mother to her 4-year-old son, Noah. One day, we planned to go to the zoo with Emma and Noah. Unfortunately, I caught a cold at the wrong time. When I tried to cancel the outing, Liam kindly offered to take the day off from work, not wanting to disappoint the kids, even though it meant he and Emma would be alone together with the children. I didn't think anything of it. However, one day when I was walking through the shopping district after running errands, I happened to see Liam and Emma sitting together in a cafe. I wondered why they were together, but as it was almost time for Ava to come home from her after-school program, I headed home, still feeling uneasy. That night, when Liam came home, I asked him about it. He explained that it had started raining and they happened to meet, so they went to the cafe to wait for the rain to stop. He seemed calm and nonchalant, so I trusted him at the time. But after that day, Liam started coming home late more frequently. He also began asking for more money, claiming he was short on cash. On his days off, he went out more often, and whenever Emma visited our house, their interaction seemed more familiar than before. Suspicion began to creep into my mind, even though our relationship with Ava remained as strong as ever. Then an incident occurred that made me realize something was amiss. Emma came over as usual and asked if I could take care of Noah for about a week. A friend had invited her on a trip to Hawaii, and it was difficult to bring Noah along. Emma pleaded, saying she needed a break after being so busy. I understood how hard it was for her since the divorce, and though reluctant, I agreed to help. As Emma's trip approached, Liam told me he would be away for a while on a business trip, visiting multiple areas over several days. I thought it was a tough coincidence, but I was shocked when I learned his departure date. It was the same day as Emma's trip to Hawaii. Was this really a coincidence? Liam's increasing phone use and secretive behavior made me more suspicious. When Emma visited, their interaction seemed unusually close. On the day of Emma's departure, she arrived early in the morning with Noah. The moment I held Noah's hand and immediately noticed something was off. His hand was unusually hot and his body felt feverish when I lifted him. I didn't need a thermometer to know he had a high fever. "Emma, doesn't Noah have a fever?" I asked. Yes, he's been running a fever since yesterday. It hasn't gone down yet," she admitted. "What? We have to take him to the hospital right away. Surely your son's health should be more important than a trip," I insisted. But then Emma said something outrageous. "So I'm counting on you." "What? You're leaving your child here while he has a fever?" I was incredulous. "I have no choice, do I? I made the promise a long time ago. It's ridiculous to pay a cancellation fee," she replied. "That's not the point, is it? Isn't Noah the most important here?" I argued. "Of course he's important, but I'm not worried because you're here, Olivia. Take good care of him for me," Emma said. "Wait, Emma." Despite my attempts to stop her, Emma left. I couldn't believe it. Noah was suffering from a high fever, and she left him in my care. Noah seemed to be really struggling, probably because of the strain of moving while having a high fever. I quickly laid him down on the bed and placed a cold, wet towel on his forehead. While I was preparing an ice pillow in the freezer, Liam woke up. "Liam, it seems Noah has a fever," I said. "Really? Is that so?" he replied sleepily. "Emma is terrible. She's going on a trip, leaving Noah in this state," I fumed. "Well, she had planned it long ago, right? She probably can't cancel at this point," he reasoned. "You too, Liam. Poor Noah. If you feel that way, you should take good care of him," I said. "Liam, can't you do something about your business trip? If Noah has some contagious disease, he might pass it to Ava. I'll take care of Noah, so I want you to take care of Ava," I pleaded. As a mother who loves her daughter dearly, I reluctantly agreed. Work is important, but surely our daughter is even more important. However, my expectations were betrayed. "What? That's impossible. You should know that," I exclaimed. "If you're worried, just leave her at your parents' house," Liam suggested. "Even if you say that my parents are busy with work and your parents' house is too far away to go now," I countered. "Then there's no choice," Liam replied. "Well, all we need to do is let Noah sleep. It'll be fine," he said casually. "Say that so casually. What do you want me to do then?" I retorted. It's time. I have to go. I'll be going then." Liam hurried off, leaving me behind. I quickly called my parents. They couldn't take a day off work on such short notice, but my mother promised to leave early and come pick up Ava as soon as possible, which gave me some relief. While waiting for my mother to arrive, I kept Ava confined to her room, feeling sorry for her. Meanwhile, Noah's condition seemed to be worsening. In addition to this fever, he started to cough in the early afternoon. When my mother arrived early from work, I immediately took Noah to the pediatrician. On the way to the hospital, my heart ached seeing Noah suffer even from the car ride. The doctor diagnosed it as a common cold and prescribed an antipyretic, advising me to monitor his condition closely. However, I was warned to call an ambulance without hesitation if his fever rose further or if he became dangerously delirious. "I'm sorry, Mom," I whispered to myself, overwhelmed with concern for Noah's well-being. "I suddenly had to ask you to take care of Ava. Don't worry about it. More importantly, I'm worried about Noah," my mother assured me over the phone. Noah was as dear to my parents as Ava. After finishing the call with my mother, I felt an urge to call my husband's company. I needed to know the location of his supposed business trip in case of emergencies. The response confirmed my worst fears. He was on paid leave. Looking up at the sky, a bad premonition began to feel real. I opened my husband's laptop, which I had never seen before, and examined his search history. The destination was Hawaii, and all arrangements, plane tickets and hotel reservations, had been made by him. I recognized the name of the hotel. It was where my sister had mentioned staying. My sister and husband in Hawaii at the same hotel at the same time. Such a coincidence was implausible, not even 1 in 10,000. The fact that my husband, who claimed to be on a business trip, was on paid leave in Hawaii was abnormal. Out of curiosity, I checked my sister's social media. There were no new posts, but her recent ones showed her often with someone. The clothing visible in the photos looked all too familiar. What turned my suspicion into certainty was a picture where the person with her wore a watch that I had given my husband, not expensive, but distinct in design. This person, clearly not my husband, appeared in multiple photos with her, wearing the same clothes and watch. The possibility of coincidence was virtually zero. Then I found the conclusive photo in an album labeled Window Shopping. My sister was reflected in a shop window, and at the edge of the photo, unmistakably, was my husband. My sister, elated, had likely posted the photo without realizing he was in the reflection. With trembling hands, I saved all the photos. There was no doubt now. My sister and husband were having an affair. They were together right now, and it felt like everything fell into place. The foundation I had built with my husband was crumbling all at once. I called them repeatedly, but each time an automated voice message played, it seemed they had turned off their phones. Noah's fever still hadn't subsided, and seeing his pained expression, anger began to well up inside me. Despite a young child suffering so much, despite my own tough situation, at this very moment, my sister and husband were likely laughing and enjoying their trip to Hawaii. Could there be a more cruel story than this? Shaking with anger, I tried to think about what to do next, but that would have to wait. First and foremost, I needed to wait for Noah to recover. Yet there was no sign of his fever decreasing. If anything, it seemed to be getting worse. I was shocked when I took his temperature minus 107 degrees. Children are susceptible to high fevers. Ava had once had a fever of 104 degrees, but never this high. Why wasn't the fever reducer working? Noah was completely exhausted, and any movement seemed to cause him pain. Desperate to suppress the panic threatening to overwhelm me, I was just considering calling an ambulance when my smartphone buzzed. "Mommy," Noah murmured weakly, his face contorted in pain, calling out for his mother. "I can't forgive them. I'll never forgive them," I vowed silently, my vision clouding with rage. Just as it seemed my anger would consume me, Noah's condition suddenly took a turn for the worse. A week had passed since then, and despite my sorrow, today was a clear day. I found myself staring blankly at the wide blue sky, tears streaming down my face. I had lost count of how many times I had cried, yet my tears showed no signs of drying up. Ava's hand trembled in mine, and as I lifted her up, I could see my parents, also in tears, comforting her. Other family members and friends gathered, all sharing in our grief. Everyone, without exception, was in tears. Suddenly, my smartphone vibrated. I set Ava down and glanced at the display. It was my sister's name. "Hello," I answered hesitantly. "Oh, Olivia, it's been a while. I just got back from Hawaii. I'm at the airport now, and I'm going to pick up Noah next. Thanks for looking after him." My sister's voice came through the line as if from another world. I uttered a phrase as if whispering, "Our dear has gone to heaven." A single tear, which I thought I had under control, spilled over. Unable to comprehend my words, my sister asked back in a bewildered voice over the phone, "Heaven? What are you talking about? That makes no sense." "So our loved one is in heaven while you were enjoying your trip to Hawaii," I said, struggling to contain my emotions. "I don't understand what you're saying," my sister replied, sounding confused. "You'll understand when you get here. The funeral is over, and we're now at the crematorium." "What? The crematorium?" My sister's voice was filled with shock and disbelief, and the phone call abruptly ended. No. My sister rushed out of the taxi, desperation etched on her face. She called out his name and looked around frantically, but Noah wasn't there. "Where is he?" "He's not here." "Of course he isn't," I said softly, pointing in the direction of the crematorium. Though modern crematoriums don't emit smoke like the old ones, there was no mistaking the solemn reality. Someone was being cremated right now. About Noah. The day you dropped him off, his fever suddenly spiked to 107 degrees Fahrenheit. 107 degrees? My sister's voice faltered. The antipyretic we got from the pediatrician didn't work, and his condition deteriorated rapidly. We called an ambulance in a panic, but no. I couldn't bring myself to finish the sentence. "We're in the middle of a funeral right now," I continued, spreading my arms towards the crematorium. "Hey, what's going on? What happened to Noah? Why are you here?" A man shouted, breaking the silence. It was my husband, shock and disbelief evident in his voice. "It doesn't matter why I'm here. What about Noah?" I retorted sharply. "Of course it matters." My husband's voice was strained, filled with urgency and concern. With nothing left to lose, I faced my husband, ready to confront the truth. I shouted back, "What kind of nerve do you two have to abandon your family and go on a fair trip? Noah was sick with a fever, and despite my plea for help, you ignored us and went on your trip. Are you out of your mind? What are you saying?" "I've known for a long time. When I contacted your company, they said you had taken paid leave. When I checked the computer, there was a reservation for a trip to Hawaii, staying on the same flight and in the same hotel as my sister. You think you can explain that away as a coincidence?" At my intense accusation, my husband was left speechless. "Olivia, tell me, is Noah?" His voice broke. "How can you ask that question now? Why do you think we're here? Why do you think we're wearing mourning clothes at the crematorium? Don't you understand?" I demanded, my voice trembling with emotion. No. My sister's scream pierced the tense air, collapsing into tears. I looked down at her with cold eyes. "You have no right to cry, Emma. You're the worst kind of person, abandoning your son to go on a trip with your sister's husband." "I was so lonely all by myself. That's why. Emma's voice quivered. "So you laid hands on my husband?" I accused. "What? I did nothing wrong." "I'm not in the wrong," Emma insisted, unbelievably lashing out in anger. "I didn't choose to have a child, nor did I choose to become a single mother. When my ex-husband and I divorced, I wanted him to take custody of Noah, but he refused. So I did my best to raise him on my own. But to think Noah would? No, Emma." The one comforting my crying sister was my husband. It seemed he had no intention of hiding their affair any longer. "Don't be selfish. Our parents and I have helped as much as we can. Leaving the sick child alone to have an affair is no excuse." I lashed out at them. "You don't even realize how despicable you are. You're the worst." "Hey, Olivia, aren't you being too harsh on your sister?" "Emma is shocked because Noah has passed away," my husband interjected. "Shut up. Don't you dare act superior. Just so you know, we're getting a divorce. I'll make you pay for everything you owe, so be prepared." "What? What does that have to do with this?" "It has everything to do with this." I yelled back at him, my sister crying in the background. The situation had become a battlefield. Our parents approached us in the midst of the chaos. My sister tear-streaked, blamed them. Dad, Mom, why didn't you take proper care of Noah? Why did you let this happen? She cried out. Suddenly, a dry slapping sound echoed through the tension. It was our father who had slapped my sister's cheek. Don't be ridiculous. You abandoned your child and yet you blame others. You even went on a trip with your sister's husband. Shameless. I feel ashamed as a father for raising you like this, he condemned her. My sister cried even harder at our father's harsh words. I contemplated slapping my husband, but before I could act, a small boy's voice cut through the turmoil. Mom. My sister turned sharply. There he was. No. Noah, she exclaimed, moving towards him, but the man holding Noah quickly stepped back, out of her reach. Hey, what are you doing, Lucas? I demanded. The man holding Noah was my sister's ex-husband, the man who had divorced her due to their personal conflicts. That's what I should be saying. What are you doing, leaving Noah alone? It's none of your business. Noah is my son too, he argued fiercely. I followed the prevailing opinion that a mother is better because you insisted on not sharing custody, no matter how many times. I warned you, you wouldn't let me see him, and as I feared, it came to this. You have no right to be Noah's mother. Shut up. All you have to do is quietly pay child support. I'll pay whatever it takes for Noah's sake, but you didn't take care of him. You left him alone. You didn't even know how dangerous his condition was, and you were off on a pleasure trip. On that day when Noah's condition suddenly deteriorated, I panicked and called an ambulance. I called my parents and Lucas, Noah's father. While treatment was being given after arriving at the hospital, he was quite surprised when I told him my sister was on a pleasure trip with my husband. Afterwards, Noah, who was discharged from the hospital in good health, was recuperating at Lucas's parents' house. Wait, so Noah is safe, right? I asked my bewildered husband, staring at the crematorium. It's her grandmother, I explained. Our grandmother, who was bedridden due to her advanced age, has been under care at a nursing home. She passed away from old age the other day. Even though she was bedridden, she had a clear mind and doted on her great-grandchildren, Ava and Noah. When we occasionally visited her at the facility, her wrinkled face would crinkle even more. At the sudden farewell, I, my parents, and Ava were unable to cope and just wept. Noah, being just out of illness, didn't attend the funeral. But I called my sister to this crematorium after informing Lucas that Noah was fine, since his fever had completely gone down. You tricked me, my sister accused, staring daggers at us. We were the ones who wanted to accuse her. I didn't hear that Grandma had passed away either. My sister shouted. I called multiple times to tell you that Grandma had passed away, but your phone was turned off. Both of you were unreachable. Even though Grandma was kind to you, it's unacceptable to be late enough. It's mocking me. No, let's go. You'd rather be with Mommy than this man, right, Lucas? I said firmly, trying to take no back from Lucas. It was Father scolding my sister who was confronting Lucas. Are you still thinking that you can keep Noah with you even after all this? Listen, what you did was on the verge of breaking the law. It's called parental neglect. You failed as a mother. Don't think that you can ever be by Noah's side again. Noah will be raised by Lucas. Dad, no way. We have even hired a lawyer and decided to fully cooperate with Lucas. You are no longer our daughter. Be prepared for us to cut ties, Mom. My sister's face turned pale at the disavowal from her parents. I stood imposingly in front of my sister and husband. My husband and I are getting a divorce. Why don't you two get along? You should be fine not seeing each of your children. After all, you left them behind to go on a trip overseas. Hearing this, my husband started yelling. Wait, Olivia, it was just a moment of weakness, just a fling with Emma. What's most important to me are you and Ava. Then my sister exploded. What did you say? A fling. You said you don't love Olivia anymore, that you only love me. Shut up. I love my daughter. Don't mess with me. My husband and sister resumed their quarrel. We left them arguing and departed with my grandmother's ashes. After that intense dispute, mediation ended peacefully since I had appointed a lawyer. Noah went to his father's place. I thought he would feel sad about being apart from his mother, but he was actually happy. It seemed my sister was completely non-functional as a mother. My husband and I also had our disagreements. He was stubborn, but after being scolded by both sets of parents, he deflated. The final blow came from our daughter. "I don't need daddy," Ava declared. Though only 6, she seemed to mature early and understood her father's behavior in her own way. When Ava looked at my husband like he was an insect, I couldn't help but laugh. There was no greater punishment for my ex-husband, who had adored her daughter. He now has the right to see Ava, but whether she wants to see him is up to her. So the dramatic situation came to an end. Ava and I moved back to our parents' home, living peacefully. Our parents were thrilled to have Ava around. Next year, she would start first grade, and we were excited about her school preparation. I also planned to get a job at the same time she started school. Noah visited every now and then with Lucas. His face was unrecognizably bright compared to before, filled with smiles. Meanwhile, while we were living joyfully, it seemed my sister and ex-husband ended their relationship easily. Perhaps it truly was just a fling for my ex-husband. Perhaps he was shocked at being disliked by his daughter, so he easily discarded my sister. However, his affair with his wife's sister became known in his company, and he was deemed to have character problems. He was sent to the provinces, making it even harder for him to see Ava. He deserved it. As for my sister, it seemed she lived like a hollow shell for a while, frustrated by being abandoned by everything. Eventually, she disappeared. We filed a missing persons report, but I had a feeling my sister would never be found. "I've longed for children, but you're the reason we couldn't have them," my husband spat out, hurling those hurtful words at me after 20 years of marriage. In that moment, I realized I couldn't continue with him. His callousness cut deep and his mind was elsewhere, dreaming of a new life without me. It felt as if some divine eye had witnessed his cruelty. My name is Lisa, 45 years old, a secretary at a law firm. Our marriage, nearing 2 decades, had been modest and childless. Despite our shared desire for children, infertility plagued us, primarily my own struggles. I underwent treatments, exhausting myself physically, emotionally, and financially, only to face disappointment. When I turned 40, we conceded defeat. My husband's desire for children persisted, but I couldn't endure the pain and financial strain any longer. We decided to halt treatments and embrace a childless life, opting for luxury trips instead. Yet the pang of regret lingered, especially when confronted with images of children on TV or greeting cards. Even 5 years post-treatments, guilt and remorse gnawed at me. Then, a school reunion beckoned after a decade. My husband encouraged me to take a break, sensing it as a mini vacation. It felt like a temporary escape from the weight of our childless existence. I realized I had scarcely been out alone since our wedding day, my life consumed by infertility treatments. But a little indulgence now and then couldn't hurt, right? At the venue, catching up with old friends felt refreshing. "Lisa, long time no see. You look great, slimmer than before," one friend remarked. Indeed, I had shed about 22 pounds over the past decade. "Thanks," I replied with a smile. "I envy you. Since marriage and kids, I've gained almost 33 pounds, she lamented. Her words, though innocent, stung a bit. "Any kids for you?" another friend asked. "No, we couldn't," I replied, feeling the weight of the question. "Just the 2 of us." "Oh, sorry for asking such an awkward question," she apologized. "No worries. Let's just enjoy ourselves," I reassured, trying to maintain a lively atmosphere. As conversation flowed, a startling revelation emerged. My son was nearly caught in a marriage scam recently, one classmate shared. I was taken aback. A scam? Yes, they asked him for $20,000 for their wedding, but it fell through, she explained. "What happened next?" I inquired, intrigued. "He couldn't afford it, so he came to us for advice. That's when we uncovered the scam. The woman vanished," she recounted. "It's terrifying," I murmured, shaken by the story. "There are some awful people out there," another friend chimed in. "Really scary." "A marriage scam," I mused, shocked that such deceit could occur so close to home. Thankfully, her son had moved on with a new girlfriend, and the parents seemed relieved. The reunion continued smoothly, eventually winding down. Instead of heading to the after party, I decided to head home, reflecting on the evening's unexpected revelations. I returned to my hotel, savoring a nightcap alone. It struck me, I hadn't checked in with my husband. It was only 10 p.m. He should still be awake. Despite repeated calls, he didn't answer. Perhaps he already turned in. Well, I'd be back tomorrow, so it wasn't a pressing concern. Yet an uneasy feeling gnawed at me. Was it women's intuition? Something felt off. From then on, my husband started arriving home unusually late on weekdays, often inebriated. "Hey, I'm home," he slurred one night, collapsing onto the living room floor. "Are you okay?" I asked, concern creeping into my voice. "Shut up, I'm home. Show some respect," he retorted, his words clouded by alcohol. As I tidied up his discarded clothes, he muttered something about Alyssa. You know, if you were as young as Alyssa. Confusion gripped me. Who was Alyssa? What did he mean by his words? Before I could inquire further, he was already asleep. Could he be cheating on me? The unease I felt that day morphed into a creeping certainty. But no, my husband was a good man. It must be drunken nonsense. Yet doubts lingered, unsettling my thoughts. I tried to reassure myself, but my husband's erratic behavior gnawed at me. Weekends meant early departures and late returns, often accompanied by the stench of alcohol. It had become a pattern I could no longer ignore. "You're going out drinking almost every day lately. Are we okay?" I ventured one evening. "Mind your own business. It's my money," he snapped back, dismissive of my concern. "But we need to save for our future," I insisted. His response cut deep. "Well, I've spent quite a bit on treatments." "That's because you're defective." Even in his inebriated state, his words stung. I could have fathomed he'd speak to me that way. As time passed, his disparaging remarks grew more frequent. "Since you can't have kids, you should focus on showing affection to me," he'd say. With each selfish act, my love for him waned. Gone was the caring husband who once supported me through treatments. Would he ever return? After 20 years, I began questioning the essence of our marriage. But before I could confront him about it, he dropped a bombshell. "We need to talk," he said, his demeanor serious. I returned from work to find him on the sofa, his expression grave. "What's wrong? Why are you being so formal?" I asked, sensing something was amiss. "I want a divorce," he declared bluntly. The words hit me like a ton of bricks. "You're joking, right? Why would you say that all of a sudden?" I pleaded, hoping for reassurance. But the idea of divorce had never crossed his mind before. "Yes," he confirmed, leaving me stunned and bewildered. The revelation hit me like a tidal wave. Divorce? Had my husband been considering it all along? I confronted him, desperate for clarity. "Out of the blue, you want a divorce? What's going on?" I demanded, my emotions raw. "We've been together for 20 years, haven't we? Let's talk this through," I urged, hoping for understanding. But he met my plea with contempt. "You're clueless, aren't you?" he scoffed, his tone laced with bitterness. Confusion clouded my mind. "What do you mean? For 20 years I've wanted children, but because of you I've been denied that chance," he accused, his words cutting deep. His revelation blindsided me. "That's not fair." "We decided together to stop treatments," I countered, feeling the weight of sadness and frustration. "I was never okay with that. I've always wanted a child," he confessed, his voice heavy with regret. Tears threatened to spill as the reality sank in. "Well, if you sign the divorce papers, I won't have anything else to say," he declared proudly, pushing the papers toward me. But his next words struck like lightning. "I've already decided to remarry." "Remarry? With a 20-year-old? I gasped, disbelief coursing through me. "That's right. Alyssa," he confirmed, a smug satisfaction in his tone. Alyssa, the name echoed in my mind, the same name he had mentioned before. Woman's intuition, it seemed, was not to be underestimated. I felt a flicker of self-satisfaction, but I knew it wasn't the time for indulgence. Then my husband showed me a picture of his so-called adorable Alyssa. As I examined it closely, I struggled to contain my laughter. Surely, this had to be a joke. How could something like this be real? I prayed he didn't notice my odd reaction and swiftly composed myself. "So, you really want a child that badly?" I questioned, masking my incredulity. "Yes, because you can't give birth. There's nothing we can do about that, right? You'll agree to the divorce, won't you?" he pressed, oblivious to my internal turmoil. "I suppose there's no choice," I replied, feigning distress, though secretly his sheer idiocy made the decision easier. With each passing moment, the thought of divorcing him grew more appealing. It felt like divine intervention guiding me toward the right path. With a heavy heart, or so I pretended, I signed the divorce papers and left him behind. I couldn't help but feel a sense of anticipation. Surely, he would regret his actions soon enough. Time would tell. Fast forward a year after the divorce, and I encountered him on my way home from work. His appearance shocked me. "Lisa, please help me," he pleaded, his shabby appearance a stark contrast to the man I once knew. "Excuse me, who are you?" I asked, genuinely not recognizing him. "It's me, Lisa. I need your help," he insisted, desperation evident in his voice. I hesitated, taken aback by his transformation. "Long time no see," I finally managed, unsure of how to react. In that moment, I realized the tables had turned. It was now his turn to seek assistance, and I held all the cards. "Please introduce me to your company's lawyer," he implored, his request a humbling reminder of his downfall. I couldn't just agree to help out of the blue. It seemed my ex-husband was facing financial troubles. I had sensed it from his appearance, but I never imagined he would change so drastically within a year. "If it's your first consultation, it's free. But to hire them, you'll have to pay their fee," I explained, trying to navigate the situation. "I don't have that kind of money. Please help me," he pleaded, desperation evident in his voice. Perplexed by his sudden predicament, I decided to hear him out. We found ourselves in a nearby cafe, where he began to share his story. "Well, actually," he started, but before he could finish, I interjected. "Did that girl Alyssa run off?" I asked, a sudden realization dawning on me. "How did you know?" he responded, surprise evident in his voice. "Just as I suspected. When you showed me a picture of a girl named Alyssa, it clicked. She looked exactly like the one who killed a classmate's son at a reunion," I explained, recalling the warning given by the classmate about a woman named Sally, approximately 22 years old. "Her age and name are probably fake, of course. The swindler wouldn't use her real name," I added, connecting the dots. "Of course you knew about Alyssa, didn't you?" he questioned, realization settling in. "Well, I guess you could say I knew. But what happened?" I inquired, eager to unravel the full story. When I pressed my husband for an explanation, this was the story he offered. About a year ago, he met a woman named Alyssa at a nightclub. My husband, who had always harbored a desire for children, seemed to have shared his thoughts with her. It was during one of these conversations that Alyssa made an astonishing offer: she could bear a child for him. Their relationship blossomed from there. He started frequenting the club almost every weekday and spent weekends with Alyssa outside its confines. In the process, he depleted $10,000 from his savings, accumulated during his single days. Despite this, Alyssa never demanded lavish gifts or expensive outings. She was content just to share a drink with him at the club. She was different, he insisted. Not like the stereotypical club girls you often hear about. She didn't care about designer goods or jewelry. She was happy as long as I was there with her. He painted Alyssa as hardworking and sincere, emphasizing their agreement not to touch each other's savings from their single days. "I thought it was his money and he could use it as he pleased," I admitted, unaware of his extravagant spending. Then my husband revealed the twist in the tale. Alyssa's true colors had emerged. "I want to get married, but I had debts totaling about $20,000. Then my husband promised to take on Alyssa's debt and transferred the money to her," I recounted, my voice heavy with regret. "They moved in together right after our divorce, but Alyssa continued her nighttime work and rarely came home. Eventually, she quit her job at the club and disappeared, taking all the money with her. How could he be so foolish?" I lamented, feeling a sense of despair at having been married to such a man for 20 years. "Did you make a promissory note?" I inquired, hoping for some semblance of responsibility. "A what?" My husband looked puzzled. "You lent her money, didn't you?" "Didn't you get a note?" I pressed, frustration creeping into my tone. "We were going to be a couple, so I didn't do such a thing," he admitted. "So, you basically gave her the money, is that it?" I asked incredulously. "In this case, it seems like you donated $20,000 to Alyssa out of goodwill," I concluded, my disappointment palpable. "This woman must be a pro," I mused, realizing the extent of her deception. In the case of donations, if the amount exceeds $11,000 in a year, gift tax is imposed. Depending on the case, the receiver might be taxed. So, Alyssa just took $20,000 in cash and vanished, splitting the money into two parts across 2 different years to avoid taxes. The reason my husband thought she was a good girl who never asked for material gifts was because she knew the law well. "So, what should I do?" I asked, feeling overwhelmed. "I don't know. Maybe consult a lawyer. It'll cost you, though, he replied, his shoulders slumping in defeat. All my savings from my Sable days are gone, and the woman I loved ran away from me. I can't go back on my word to the company about remarrying after boasting about getting a younger wife. Isn't that his own doing? I thought, feeling the weight of my husband's pitiful situation. Lisa, it's my fault. Please come back to me, he pleaded. I realized after you were gone, you were the only one who cared about me. I don't need kids anymore. I'll let you do as you like. You must have been lonely too, right? But his misunderstanding persisted. That matter had ended half a year ago in my mind, so I confronted him with reality. You know, it's been a year. What's with this sudden change of heart? Isn't it a little too late now? Lisa, are you going to abandon me? Well, it was you who pushed for our divorce in the first place, remember? I reminded him. You're the only one I can rely on. My ex-husband looked utterly exhausted, and I decided to show him a little mercy. All right then, shall I call up a lawyer friend of mine? Lisa, thank you. I knew I could count on you, he said, tears welling up in his eyes. Mr. Johnson, the lawyer for my company, arrived at the coffee shop. John, over here, I called out, and my ex-husband seemed somewhat perplexed by our overly familiar demeanor. You see, we've been dating for the past 6 months now, I explained. What was it you needed advice on? As I finished speaking, my ex-husband looked as if he was in a daze. No, well, I think that'll be it for today, he muttered, suddenly snapping back to reality and hurriedly leaving the coffee shop. In the end, he couldn't afford to hire a lawyer and resigned himself to his fate. Rumor had it that his company was abuzz with talk of his unfortunate situation, left by his soon-to-be wife and ignored by his ex-wife. As Mr. Johnson and I spoke later, I confessed the truth about the charade. I'm sorry for involving you in all this, I apologized. No worries, Lisa. I'm glad I could be of help, he reassured me. By the way, do you have any plans after this? Caught off guard by the unexpected turn of events, I was a little flustered, but a fresh start in my mid-40s didn't seem like such a bad beginning. Yes, I'd love to, I agreed, certain that a fun-filled future was awaiting me. I couldn't shake off this feeling of excitement.